Beth, and I am your host today, and you know me. I'm your passionate pioneer. My guest today is Fiona Cutts. Fiona, her motto, from shy to sexy, your journey to orgasmic living. Hi, Fiona.
Yes. Hi, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So, this podcast is your doorway to passion, spirituality, and joyful living. So, let me introduce my guest. We are diving deep into the transformative journey of Fiona Cutts, a woman who overcame debilitating shyness to embrace her sexuality and live a life filled with passion and pleasure. Let's discover how Fiona's personal struggles led her to a profound awakening and a newfound connection with her body, and learn how you too can break free from self doubt and unlock your potential. Well, shy girl to sexy girl, right?
Yes, yes.
So, what ignited? This is a great question. I love to start these podcasts with this question because it's a bit of a tongue in cheek, really, because it's what ignited your passion for this industry, this wellness industry. Was it a lifelong dream, or did it emerge through a journey of discovery?
It certainly was not a lifelong dream. It's like I think if I dreamt that when I was like 13 or even 23, I don't know what my family would have done.
Right.
I'd been excommunicated, but probably I'd been excommunicated anyway. No, it was something that, as you say, something that evolved through my life. So basically, I would say I became shy through the way my family conditioning was, particularly the way I was treated by my dad, who was very, very strict and very authoritarian and very verbally abusive. And all of that led to me leading in my life leading my life for him rather than for me. Because as we know, despite the fact that our parents may be in some cases pretty difficult, we still, as children or young adults, desire to please them. So I became an
Mhm.
accountant, which had nothing to do with me, everything to do with my dad, and kind of was fairly successful and quote unquote normal for a while. And then I literally couldn't hold it together and became very, very ill. And it was that illness that was the catalyst for a completely different journey. And I had a fatigue illness. And I think that when you're shy and you're kind of suppressing everything, that's really, really tiring. So it's very common, I think, for the shyness and the inability to speak up to go with the tiredness. So, what occurred was that at the beginning, I had no idea about sexual awakening. At the beginning of my journey my healing journey, I was just like, you know what? I'll be happy if I can live a halfway decent life again. It's like my life had got so bad that I just wanted to improve it a bit. And then, of course, I found energy healing and started to get way better and way more energetic. And the aliveness and the energy kind of led directly into the sexual energy part as well. And I think this is part of the kind of lie that we can have, that we kind of have us here and sexualness here or sexuality here.
It's
What I
it's
discovered through my
it
own,
is, isn't it?
sorry,
It
go
is
on.
it is very much so, isn't it? We tend to be we shy away from the sexual side of things, and that is, but it is part of um our makeup, our being, our it's all part of the wellness, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I guess for me, I discovered that I'd been suppressing pretty much everything. I mean, I was very, very ill for a few
Right.
years. I was living a really limited life. I mean, I know some people who have chronic fatigue syndrome can't leave the house. I was never so debilitated, but I was able to like do be outside for a couple of hours a day, and my life was very, very limited. And so I'd suppressed everything, but for sure I'd suppressed my sexual energy. And it was interesting that I didn't even have to sort of try to awaken my sexual energy. It was a natural kind of next step in my healing journey. It's like as my sort of energy return that include my aliveness and my vitality and my sexual energy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, well, it's an interesting story, isn't it? The fact that you had that, everything was suppressed in your childhood.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and so did it come back with, everything came with a vengeance all at once, or was it just a slow journey over like 2 years?
Yeah, I would say it was a slowish journey, which to be honest still continues. It's like Sex and the Shy Girl is in its current form is relatively new. And honestly, when you put out something like Sex and the Shy Girl into the world, all the places that you're not being that kind of come up to haunt you. So I've had some interesting experiences with men recently, including one man saying to me, "Well, you're still shy, aren't you?" And I'm like, well, maybe. I don't know. It's like just that sort of thing that people kind of project onto me. Oh, you must be so sexy that you're going to jump into bed with everyone, including me. And you're
Well, I
like,
think
yeah,
that we do that, don't we? We do
yeah,
connect sexual energy with someone who's very confident about themselves. And I think it
yes.
does, and that's not necessary. I mean, it's a no, it's not, that's not necessarily true. It is not
So what I
necessarily true.
think, and it's interesting because this has come about through my own experiences of sort of I'm single at the moment, but I've been dating and sort of meeting different people. And it's really interesting because I think that often men assume that, oh, Sex and the Shy Girl, and you're healed and you're no longer shy. So, it's almost like that's equated, maybe not with promiscuity, but with a kind of, oh, I don't know quite how to put it, but you're sort of, sounds a bit crude, but you're ready to go. And actually, for me, what becoming sexually confident really means is, oh, I am much more clear about what is going to nurture my body and who is going to nurture my body. And it may be that it takes me some time to get to know somebody and feel relaxed enough to actually be my full self with them. And I guess in the past that I probably wasn't my full self. It's like we can have sexual encounters where we don't actually share much of ourselves. And I guess what I'm looking to bring into the world with Sex and the Shy Girl is a more full sharing of ourselves. And I think for a lot of shy women, actually, they're not comfortable with that kind of, hey, let's have sex, just for the sake of having
Right.
sex. It's like often they're in that space of, you know what? I'm shy, I'm sensitive. If I have sex, I share myself. And so it's kind of that space where we need to have the confidence within ourselves, but also the confidence to attract a partner with whom we can feel relaxed.
Yeah.
But one of the great things is that as you do the work to become sexually confident, you have way more idea about who you'd like as a partner, and you're way less likely to choose what I call the bad boys.
Right. Okay. Okay. It is funny though, isn't it? Especially with sex that, if we think about, if a woman is sexually confident, we've got labels, society. I wouldn't say we because I wouldn't put myself in that box, but society has got labels for that. And yet, if a man is sexually confident, we've got labels for that.
Yes.
Positive labels, negative labels, right?
Yes.
What's
Yes.
your take on that, Fiona?
Well, I guess it's like, I mean, the world has changed so much since I was growing up, but in other ways, I think some of those what can be seen as cliches are still in a way true, at least broadly true. I think it's starting to change, and that the sort of all what started as alternative is becoming more mainstream. So I think there still is that space of you've got to be a good girl, but and or seem to be a good girl and all that kind of
Seem to be
stuff.
a
But
good girl, right? Yeah.
yeah, and and you're right. It's like for men, it's often. I mean, gosh, even my dad. I mean, my dad was so strict with me, and I remember being like in my early 20s, and he pretty much accused me of having sex with my boyfriend, which I was having sex with my boyfriend. But for that to be an accusation and to be seen as wrong when I was in my early 20s, and when he accused me of it, I felt really wrong, like I shouldn't have been having sex, even though I was that age. And so, although he put all that onto me, at the same time, he he was a bit of a, I wouldn't exactly say a player, but he would often make these sort of jokes about sex, and he'd be kind of implying that for men it was good to play the field, even if he hadn't, because of the time that he was born, maybe he hadn't been able to do it as much as he would like, but it was fine for my brother. That's the sense of it.
Right.
And actually, I suppose what I'm looking at with Sex and the Shy Girl, and I mean, I have, because I trained in this, I have, obviously other male and female colleagues who are doing this kind of sexual work. And I guess what a lot of us are looking at is trying to normalize sex. And so we still have that space where it's kind of either sensationalized or taboo. And actually, what if we could just have a normal conversation about it? Hey,
right.
We have these bodies, let's enjoy them. What if there was nothing wrong with that? But within that, what if we could each find our place? And it's like for some men and women, they may desire more than one partner, or they may desire what we might label as promiscuous. But promiscuous generally comes with a kind of a judgment, oh, that's bad and wrong. What if it isn't? What if it's just a choice? And then for other people, it's like, no, when I was, I don't know, 21, I met the love of my life, and I'm totally happy with them still. And I mean, and then there are some women and men who are just not very sexual. And what if that's not wrong either? So we can find our own space within this big continuum, because all of our bodies are so different.
Well, it's just why I say everybody is literally everybody, isn't it? Everybody is different.
Yes,
everybody
absolutely.
can eat different foods, drink different things, have different reactions, right? Have a different experience. We could have the same we could walk into the same shop and both have different experiences. Everybody is different, right?
Yes.
It is crazy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And how did you feel? How did you feel about, let's go back to your the time with your father and your brother. How did you feel when your brother was like, oh, it's okay for your brother to do it, but it's not okay for you to do it?
Do you know what? At the time, I think I just accepted it. Or let's put it like this: I appeared to accept it, but I think it was one of the things I suppressed. So one of the things that occurred during my healing journey was that I discovered I had this massive amount of suppressed anger, basically. It's like I hadn't been able to tell my dad what I thought. And it's interesting because I think that a lot of the younger generation now are coming in much more empowered. And I know that it's different for with your granddad to with your dad. But I saw my dad with my two nieces who are now grown up. And he tried to do the same thing. He tried to kind of suppress them and make them wrong. And do you know what? They just did not go there. They were able to carry on being themselves. And I remember my oldest niece saying to me at one point, you know what? I love your dad, but there's not going to be much space on the planet for people like him soon.
Oh, right.
And she was like a mid-teenager when she said that. And I was like, oh my goodness, when I was a mid-teenager, I did not have that degree of maturity. No. And there was no kind of judgment of my dad. I mean, she and my other niece loved my parents. It's like my parents spent a lot of time with them because my brother and his wife were working. So they spent 2 or 3 days a week with them. They absolutely adore my parents. And they were able to see that about my dad.
Yeah, they're a lot more aware, aren't they? They're a lot more aware than we were. But I do think that every generation that comes in, is there to show us something. I think the younger generation have a lot to show us, a lot to teach us, because they are the new generation that are coming in with the new ideas, and they're coming in more empowered, as you said.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's funny, and I love that you say that, because that's a direct contradiction of how I was brought up.
Right.
We're kind of, well, we're the parents and we know best. And it's like, I don't have children myself, but I see that with my nieces and my friends who have kids. No, not, I mean, not all the younger generation, but a lot of the, the young kids and the teenagers and the now 20 somethings come in way more empowered than we were.
Yeah. And I think that that's also, we are encouraging that as well.
Yes.
No, our generation, right? That have had the children that are now, teens,
Yes.
late teens, early 20s. We are, we've got the Gen Xers, I suppose. Really, most of them would be from Gen Xers, and
Yes.
and we've empowered them because we understand how debilitated we were, how
Yes.
suppressed we were. You were not allowed to have an opinion. I mean, I joke in my family we had lumpy carpets because we any problem that came in, you just weren't allowed to talk about it, and you just shoved it under the carpet, right? So, I
Yes.
mean,
Oh,
that's the way I describe it, right? I mean, it's not really it's not suppressed, but you just, I suppose you could suppress it, but it just wasn't talked about. You could only talk about it with your close friends, and that's in private. You didn't really talk about it in the open with your family, any problems you were having, right?
no, no.
Right, am I
And I'm not
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not even sure as a teenager I spoke about much intimate stuff. I mean, as I got older, I started to, but I'm not sure that I even dared to as a teenager.
Right, right. I had a few friends, and we were a little gang, not a gang, but a little gang.
Yeah,
We
well,
did
I did it. Yes,
we
I
did
was still a
talk
good
about
girl.
stuff. Yeah, we did talk about stuff. So, okay,
Oh,
so on this journey then, so obviously from this quite suppressed childhood to then having this sexual awakening, um, who were your guiding lights? Who were your mentors, role models?
oh, good question. Um, oh, I'm not sure what the answer is to that. I guess this when so my journey started with being at the School of Energy Healing, and and I suppose I mean that was such a massive thing for me because I'd been an accountant and I was a meditating Buddhist, but to be sort of doing this, we did a lot of catharsis and dance and chakra release work. And this was all very, very new to me. So I guess one of my first mentors was um, a younger woman who was my teacher, who just embodied this kind of freedom, including sexual freedom. It's like she was so free with her body, and I didn't have that at all. It's like and for me, I guess even before I started to look at sexual healing, it's like the big change came from for me through body and body movement and dance. So when I started at the School of Energy Healing, we used to have these sort of crazy few days, and then on the Saturday night there'd be like this healing dance. In fact, some of you might know it. It's called Five Rhythms Dance. And for everybody else, it was like, hooray, the week is over, I'm going to dance. For me, it was like, oh my God, it's time to dance. This is like the most excruciating thing of the whole week. And as the first year went on, by the time we got to the fifth week of the first year, I was like, this music. And my friends were so sweet. It's like they knew. For the first few weeks, I tried to keep it hidden, but I couldn't. I mean, obviously, I couldn't keep it hidden. I hated dancing and it brought up stuff for me. And so by the fifth week of the first year, when we all kind of knew each other well, my friends were so sweet. And they would be like, hey, come and dance with me at the edge of the room. Hey, do this sweet little
Nice.
dance. And then by the second year, dance had become a big part of my journey. And now wherever I live, I love to dance, I love to express.
Yeah.
And that's been a big, big part of my healing journey.
There's a lot of freedom in dancing, isn't there?
Yes,
I could
yes,
never get into this dance with the partner, foxtrot, and all the rest of it because I'm very much freestyle. I'm very much just, what's the music? Okay, I'm just going, I'm just moving, I'm just feeling the music, and and it might be it's completely different to everybody else how they feel it, right? I think
yes,
it's a very personal thing, um,
yes.
right? It is, isn't it? So
Yes.
let's go back there because you talked about this healing school, and then you also talked about the
Yes.
fact that you were an accountant. So
Yes.
where did this, how did you go? How did you take that leap from being the accountant to the healing school?
Yes, so as I said, I kind of became an accountant to please my dad, and
Right.
it lasted quite a long time. I mean, I was in the corporate world, I was in the charity world, and then I suddenly got this fatigue illness. And and I think part of the reason I got ill was because I was fed up with being an accountant. Even, I mean, the charity world is kind of a corporate charity world, and it really was stifling me. And so I knew I didn't want to be an accountant, but I had no idea what I wanted to do next. And when I was ill, I was sort of trying different ways to heal myself. You know, I went to a homeopath, I went to a reflexologist, had shiatsu, and all of these things. And then I was recommended to go to an energy healer. And I had no idea really what an energy healer was. But I went to see this woman, and I remember really clearly I spent 90 minutes with her. She did all this kind of crazy, to me at the time, crazy stuff, kind of healing my chakras and asking me questions and finding out things about, or intuiting things about me and the age at which they happened that I had no idea how she could know. And at the end of the 90 minutes, I felt really different. I mean, it wasn't like I was suddenly healed of a 3 year illness, it wasn't immediate healing. But I knew at the end of the 90 minutes, first of all, that I was going to get better with energy healing. But second of all, that I wanted to be one. I wanted to be one of these mysterious things called an energy healer.
Right.
And I mean, at the time, I had no idea what it was. So I went away to Google becoming an energy healer, which in itself was really exciting because I think I'd been told I could be a lawyer, an accountant, or a teacher. So energy healer and shaman and witch didn't feature on the list of acceptable careers. So I found it even really exciting to be able to Google all that stuff.
Right.
And and then what I realized, it's like, you know, you can learn Reiki in a weekend. There were a couple of other healing courses which you could do over a few days. And I just knew that I needed this deep dive 3 year long journey. It's like I knew that I needed to truly heal myself and that it would need a lot of time. And sure
Right.
enough, it did pretty much. I mean, by the end of the first year, I was way, way better.
Right.
But I would say it did take 3 years to really have my energy fully come back.
And we obviously, when we're doing this, it's not, when you're on a life path, I mean, that's the life path. It's not a day path. It's done in 6 months path. You choose this and you keep choosing and you keep improving, right? But it was
Yes,
very brave of you
absolutely.
to do that. Lots of women listening that would say, oh, I'm an accountant or I'm a lawyer or I'm a doctor or whatever because they were a teacher and they were put into those professions because there were limited choices and they're stuck and they don't know, you know, they would look at someone like you, or me or the other guests I've interviewed and they'd say, gosh, how did you take that leap of faith? Did you do it in small steps?
Well, to be honest, I didn't. It's like I mean, I suppose yes and no, in that I'd been ill for 3 years, and being ill for 3 years, it's a really, really long time. And but at the same time, I was fortunate because I'd done all the good things. You know, I'd been a corporate accountant, I'd been a charity accountant, in, in the Red Cross. So I was sitting there with money in the bank, but the money in the bank didn't make me relaxed because I was like, yeah, but I was like in this tiz because it's like, I can't work, I can't work, I can't work. So the money in the bank didn't mean that much to me.
Right,
And I could
right.
see that it was going down. But at a certain point, I just knew that I had to take the risk to spend, well, at the time, what I thought was a large amount of money to do this course. And, it was really quite a large amount of money. And I remember my friend, who, interestingly enough, was ill herself and didn't take a step like I took, and I think still is ill. I remember her saying to me, are you sure you want to do this? This is a lot of money. And I just knew that it was almost like it was choose to invest in my health and live, or choose to hang on to my money and die. And when I say die, it's not like I had cancer, but chronic fatigue syndrome, what I was looking at was a really, really boring life where I felt awful every day. It's like it was that kind of dying. It was like a slow death of not doing what I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
And so, yes, it was a risk, but it was a choice for living. And to be honest, over the years since then, because this is a while in the past now, I've had other times. I mean, during COVID, I had a very, very difficult time, and my then business collapsed, and I had to make a choice to start again. And this is when Sex and the Shy Girl came along. And it was like, well, I can choose to kind of hide away and hope that my old business kind of stutters along, or I can choose to do something completely different. So I actually chose to fly to Colombia and start a new business online. That was a year and a half ago now.
That's really funny, because that segues into the next question, which is what's one of the most significant risks you took, and so let's talk about that. So what was your other business, and
so I had a business
tell us the story? Go on.
Yeah, so after energy healing, I found another modality, which for me was greater. And I trained in it, and I started to do self-development workshops throughout Europe. So I trained in what's called access consciousness. So at the time of COVID, I was literally in 2 or 3 different cities a month teaching. I mean, mainly I was teaching around confidence, speaking up, getting over shyness, and a class that I called Sex Beyond Judgment. So it's like the seeds of the confidence and the sex that I do were already there. And so that's what I was doing when COVID hit. And literally, I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of workshops, mainly in Europe, but also I was going to Egypt, Kuwait, and Israel. But I was traveling, and all of those workshops, as you know, were just wiped out from one day to the next. All of the revenue associated with that, all of the prestige in a way associated with that, because I was kind of doing well in that situation of being a facilitator. And I suppose at first, like we all did, I thought that it would just be a couple of months and it would all come bouncing back. And I guess I suppose the way I've told this story in the past was I tried to get my business back, but I couldn't make it happen. What I actually see now is that my body moves when I say something true. I can feel my body preparing to move. It's like, thank you, body. I really wanted something completely different. And so the sort of pain of seeing my business disintegrate, my life disintegrate during COVID, kind of allowed this new thing to come in, this online business and this traveling lifestyle. I mean, I've been living in Colombia, Ecuador, and now Peru for nearly 2 years now. And the newish business, Sex and the Shy Girl, is supporting me to do that.
Yeah, well, we talked about that, didn't we? Because as soon as we came online tonight, I'm wearing jumpers and a scarf, and Fiona's wearing a summer dress. So I said, "Oh gosh, I'm so jealous." So you did follow you followed your intuition, you followed your body. You said, "Okay, this is the perfect time to regroup."
Yes.
And do this new whatever was going to unfold, right?
Yes, I didn't even know it was going to be Sex and the Shy Girl. I mean, I actually had a big dental process as well in 2022. And so that was part of that was part of my life collapsing. And and when the dental process was over, I've been doing some writing. I love to write, and I've been doing some writing to support myself during the dental process, because it was hard to do online or in-person coaching. And I thought that I could carry on writing. Well, first of all, I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I've been living in Eastern Europe during COVID, and I was like, I need something completely different, but also I want something with a lot of joy and vitality and fun. And so my idea was to come to Colombia and to learn salsa dancing. And to be honest, I learned a bit of salsa, but the journey to South America was about way more than dance. It's like it's
Right.
way more than that. And after a few months, the name Sex and the Shy Girl just came to me, and I was like, actually, I am ready to be a coach again. I am ready to be seen again. And so I went through the journey of setting up a new business, and I've just actually had my book Sex and the Shy Girl proofread, so it's kind of getting closer to being out there in the world.
Right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Sex and the Shy Girl? What's it all about? Tell us. I'd love to know.
Yes, yeah, sure. So Sex and the Shy Girl is basically about the journey from being a girl who's shy with sex to being a sexually confident woman. And the way that I see it, based on my own journey, I mean, not that I knew this was what I was doing at the time, you know, I was fumbling around, choosing the next thing and the next thing. But
Right.
what I see is that my journey was in three distinct steps, and that's or stages, and that's the way that I work with the Shy Girls now. So the first part of the journey is about embodiment. So there's a real epidemic of not being embodied, of being kind of out of touch with our bodies. And this has to do with everything, not just sex. And so the first thing that we have to do isn't kind of learn how to have the best orgasm in the world or something like that. The first thing we need to do is actually learn to be embodied, to be in our bodies, to enjoy food, to enjoy the dresses we wear. It's like today I was like, hey, I just asked my body, what would you like to wear? Oh, we'd like to wear that nice red dress. Okay, let's wear that nice red dress. And it's like the first thing that happens, you say, oh wow, you're in a dress. How nice. And but it's like this is the dress that lights up my body today. So, and there are various things based actually a lot on what I did at the School of Energy Healing. So there are ways of connecting with the earth, connecting with the heavens, connecting with the energy around us that really, really brings us back into our body. And so before we even talk about sex, we're in that space of actually being embodied, enjoying our bodies, just enjoying our bodies, walking down the road, enjoying whatever it is, you know, eating a mango or what else? It's like just everything that we do in our life. It's like our bodies are here with us, and we actually start to be present with our bodies and enjoy our bodies by moment.
Right.
So that's the first step.
Okay.
The second step is, again, it's a step that is for the shy girls on their own. It's only the third step that actually involves another person, which sometimes surprises people when it's about sex. But here's the thing, when we do the work on ourselves, we're already more confident before we even get to being with another person. So the second part of the process actually involves becoming more present with the whole of our bodies, sensually and sexually. So we have the word sensual, which is really that space where we just enjoy having a body. And it's like from sensuality, we come to sexuality. And so the exercise, so I give the ladies various exercises, and it's based on what I learned in my sexological bodywork training, which is called orgasmic yoga. The sort of quickest way to explain what that is mindful masturbation. And of course, as soon as I say the word about masturbation, there's probably a go around the room.
It's going to reverberate around the room, right? Everybody's going to go, oh no, she said the M word, right?
Yeah. The M word, yes. And here's the thing, it's like generally we learn to masturbate kind of quick and dirty. Even as women, we learn to masturbate quickly. We learn it's wrong, it's bad. We kind of feel sort of mixed about it. We know that we like
dirty.
it.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
And
well, that's how society's made us feel, right, Fiona? That's how society has put it on us, the church mostly, I think, right?
Yes.
Religion.
Yes. And it's funny, I mean, unsurprisingly, it wasn't something I ever talked about in my family. but I just knew that it was wrong. I mean, we didn't have to
Right.
talk about it for me to get the
No.
message that it was wrong.
That's
And so
that's interesting. Okay.
yeah, the exercises I give the ladies are far from the way we normally think of masturbation. And it's about awakening the whole of the body. So here's the thing, in the same way that we kind of tend to have our lives here, our normal lives and our sex lives here, we tend to have our bodies and our vaginas, our breasts here. Kind of, it's almost like, no, that's the dirty part. We'll have that over here. And not
Right,
consciously,
right. That's a
it
really
seems to
funny
be.
way of saying it. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of like that bit over here. We know it's super exciting and it gives us all this pleasure, but it's somehow dirty and wrong. And so it's over here and it's that. And it's like, so what we're doing is actually normalizing that. So we're bringing back our breasts and our vaginas to where they actually belong in our bodies.
Right,
And we're actually kind of experimenting with the whole of our bodies. So starting to find out which parts of our body enjoy touch. And it tends to be that as women, as women left to our own devices before all the conditioning, we tend to have a sense of our whole body as an erogenous zone. And then and this is, and just see if you don't resonate with that, that's not wrong. But for a lot of us, we have that sense when we're younger. But then what tends to happen is that we have what I call normal sex, which tends to be very, very genital focused, particularly when we're younger, but often that continues in that kind of way. And actually what this is doing, it's kind of reminding ourselves that we're not just our breasts and our genitals, where the whole of our body can be an
right,
erogenous thing.
right,
And so we kind of start to discover which parts of our bodies we enjoy touching, but we also kind of include the more sexual pleasure that comes from the breasts and the genitals, and we kind of connect the two. And what occurs with that is that when you do have an orgasm, it tends to be deeper, longer, stronger, and be about the whole body, not
Oh,
just be
interesting.
about. Mm, yeah,
Okay, okay. Because
yeah,
you've put everything,
interesting
because
and pretty
you're
exciting.
embodying yourself. You've put yourself back together, haven't you?
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Interesting.
yeah. But the other thing that occurs in this stage is that it 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 really is a coming. I mean, one of the ways I talk about it is it's a falling in love with your body, because when you spend the time in the first stage of becoming embodied, and then in the second stage of finding out what you like, being present with different parts of your body, it's like in the same way you may not have been completely present with your vulva, you may also not have been present with your elbow, and so you start to be
Right.
present with different parts of your body. And we know this, that presence is actually an act of love. So we're actually starting to really love and honor our bodies. And that starts to give us a confidence. So by the time we come into the third stage, which is about, if you have a partner, it's about how being sexual with your partner. If you're looking for a new person, it's about how to approach all of that without shyness. And you discover that because you're actually in your body and because you know your body, it's like a lot of the work in the third stage is already done. It's like it's way easier to be sexual with another person when you're actually in your body. And it's way easier, of course, to say to another person, hey, this is what I like, because you actually know
Right.
what you like, because you've spent some
Right.
time discovering it yourself.
Right.
And here's the thing, it's like often we think that, often as women, heterosexual women, we can have that point of view if we're shy with sex, that it's going to be a man that saves us. And here's the thing, that's not very likely to happen. You're the only person who can save you. And so doing these first two steps may lead you to partnership with a man who's truly kind, But that's because you've done the work on yourself. You've become kind to you, and so you can receive someone who's kind to you. So
Right.
I'm not saying that a man can't help you. Of course, a man can help you, and you can help a man. It's like we tend to think, I know for me, I tended to think, hey, well, I'm a shy one. My partner's fine. No, your sexual partner likely has all kinds of hang-ups, sexual hang-ups that are different from yours. But it's like as shy women, we can kind of sometimes be so introverted and so internally looking. And one of the ways beyond the shyness is to be interested in your partner's body. So in the third stage, if you're with a partner, what I suggest is that same kind attention that you've been giving yourself, you give to your partner's body. So sex then becomes not just about the genitals, it becomes about, oh, I wonder which parts of my partner's body he really likes me.
Right.
And it becomes a kind of a mutual exploratory journey. And so, and that contrasts with the kind of, I don't know, quick touching and then penetrative boom, boom.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, for a lot of women, it's like, for a lot of us, we don't necessarily require that, particularly when our bodies are younger. They can be like, okay, sure, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go penetrative sex. I'm ready. But actually, I know for me, even when I was younger, those times when we really spent a lot of time connecting and getting to know each other's bodies and really, really, really enjoying each other, when you actually, so that's enjoyable in its own right. But when you have the penetrative sex, there's a different quality to it. It's like there's, and I think for a lot of women, and certainly a lot of shy, and I'm going to use the word sensitive. So,
Right.
and
Right.
sensitive won't change. It's like you can heal your shyness, but you're likely to still be sensitive. And so when you have that sensitivity, actually having that kind of loving connection with another person and having that loving connection with another person actually inside you can be so deliciously yummy. And that's more likely to be the case when you spend time actually connecting with each other, actually enjoying each other's bodies.
That's fascinating, Fiona. It really is. Yes, that resonates. It's, you know, I just think that we, especially our generation, Fiona, we really was a really, it was put on the back burner. You just didn't talk about sex at all. And in fact, um, and I do think there's, and also because, the British thing as well, we're not very good at talking about things, and I think that's fascinating. And I think women do need to talk about this more, and they need to have support, and they need to have somebody to talk to. And I think that's wonderful that you've got this. So do you do this? Do you do this in person or is it online? I suppose it
It's
can be
online,
either.
actually. It's online, and I mean, it could be done in person, but I'm
Right,
here in Peru, so it tends to be online.
right,
And,
right,
and it may evolve, but at the moment, I work with women one-to-one online.
right,
And I also have a Facebook group, a free Facebook group, which does exactly what you were saying, actually. What it does is it's a safe space for women to come together and to be able to discuss the things that we don't generally discuss, even
right.
nowadays.
Yeah,
So it's a safe space to be able to ask questions, but also in a way, one of the first steps to healing is to get clarity on what's true for you. So I often I often ask questions, and the questions can be kind of not particularly sexy or edgy, but things like, oh, when you meet a new person, do you find that you try to hide the bits of you that you don't really want them to see? And that kind of brings out a discussion about all that stuff. But it can also, is like some of the questions I asked are much more sexy and explicit. And it might be like, I don't know, is one orgasm enough? Do you find it easy to orgasm? How do you enjoy being with, or what else do I ask?
But the point is, you have a community where it's safe to talk about these questions because this is not a question you just normally have with somebody. So, and
No,
sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk to friends and especially family about those types of things. And so it's nice to have a community where you feel safe. I think it's really important in any line of work, in any teaching or coaching or therapy, anything that you do like that, that you have a safe space. And in
Yes.
life in general, you need, your confidants, you need your support tribe behind you in any aspect of life. And I think that's really wonderful that you've created this. So you see, out of the 2020 chaos came this amazing idea, and now you're in. So why did you move to Peru and Colombia and this type that side of the world?
So I flew to Colombia a year and a half ago because I thought it was about salsa dance. Actually, what occurred for me, particularly, so I spent the 6 months I was allowed to with my passport in Colombia, and then I moved to Ecuador, and I fell in love with Ecuador within a couple of days. And I've been living in this beautiful high altitude city, and uh, basically a mountain area which has spring-like weather all the time, or a good English summer weather all the time. It's on the equator, so most of the days are the same, and it's like the food there, the fruit and the veg, but also the fish and the meat and the eggs are so fresh and so delicious, and the sunshine is just there all the time. And I've just felt alive and healthy and happy. And the only reason I'm in Peru now is that poor Ecuador is undergoing, it's had a massive drought, and they have power cuts there, up to 9 hours a day of power cuts, also water shortage. So I've come down here to be able to continue to live and carry out my business with the idea of going back to Ecuador in a few months when things are more settled down.
Right. So you're on this kind of solo journey. So how do you what strategies or techniques do you employ to stay motivated and inspired when you know, especially as you're on the other side of the world and this is a solo journey for you?
Yes. So one of the things that I love about the two places I live in Ecuador is that I speak not fluent, but I speak reasonable. Well, I speak good Spanish now, I think, and um, so it's so I have a lot of Ecuadorian friends, and but I also it's like in both cities there's a possibility to dance, to hike, to learn Spanish, to a few other things that I do. And I basically have a lot of friends. And I find that if I have a lot of friends and a good social life, it's kind of easier to get on with the work. But the other thing that I've done, I mean, I chose to do this again very recently, is I've actually joined a coaching community myself. So I now have a actually twice a week meeting
Yeah.
with a British guy who lives in Thailand, who's
Right.
helping me to stay on it basically with my business and continue to expand and grow it. When you said, oh, is it all online work or might you do some in-person work? That's definitely something I'm looking at with him. So I
It's
guess
really
it's a bit,
important, isn't it? It's really important to have that support network. Um,
it's very, very important. Yeah.
Yeah, because I chose to live on the mountains alone in Italy. So although I lived in Spain before, so I know a little Spanish too, but I've learned having to learn Italian. But living on a mountain was everyone said, "Oh, aren't you scared? Aren't you, you're all alone?" And I said, "Oh, it's just wonderful. I'm just surrounded by nature and I've got no neighbors and it's just great. I love it." Right? It's the ideal life for me. It's not for everybody, but it's an interesting journey. Everybody has their own journey, and it's for me, it was all about taking care of my needs and what I needed to do.
Yes.
And I guess that's what you've done too, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I have to say that after COVID and being very isolated, and then my long tooth process and being very isolated again, I think one of the reasons that I've loved these two places in Ecuador is that I've just been so sociable, and in terms of sort of, well, it's a place where I mean, there are a lot of single women and a lot of single men. So I've been also sort of having all these dates and things, and it's just been really, really fun. Because having said that, I sort of started Sex and the Shy Girl, it was after kind of two years of being very, very isolated and not much sex on the horizon at all, to be honest. Maybe that's what got me into Sex and the Shy Girl, because it's like not not having had any sex for COVID in dental process time,
Right.
or not much.
Right. Yeah, it was I think it was a shocker for everybody. That was when we went into lockdowns and we couldn't see anybody. It was a recipe for disaster. But I actually loved it because I had a job. I didn't really want to work, and I took my stuff online.
Yes.
And then I was quite happy. So how do you've talked a little bit about the community you've got. You've talked a little bit about your coach that you have and the communities that you have and the friendships you've forged in your cities or where you're living. How do you prioritize your self-care and, maintain your well-being?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I've just spent 10 days getting myself from Ecuador to the place I'm now, I think, going to live in Peru for the next few weeks. And I've literally been on night buses, hot night buses. I've been in the jungle in the heat. I've been in the mountains in the cold. And I'm like, how am I? Am I okay? And I really, really know that I need to look after myself now. And well, you can see the background here. I've just landed in this rather tatty hotel room, and I'm like, okay, I have to find somewhere, an apartment for a month or two that's really going to nurture me. So that's the first thing, that I have to have a quiet place that is my own, where I can set up my computer, where I have enough blankets on the bed and all that stuff. So that's going to be my priority over the next couple of days. But also, I tend to look for other healers so that I can do some swaps, so that I can pay for some massage or some healing. And then I look at what kind of exercise can I do. So here it's like there are mountains everywhere, so I can go hiking. And then I look at who can I meet. And again, this is a town where there are a lot of expats, and I already am in virtual contact with some people. So it's making sure that, yes, it's time to get on with my work. It's like I've let Sex and the Shy Girl kind of slide a bit over the last, actually more than 10 days for different reasons. So it's time to get on with my work. But I know that getting on with my work without meeting people and exercising and having a good place to live is never going to work on its own.
Right. Yeah, because that's the foundation, isn't it, of self-care. You've got to take care of yourself, um, and then that has a knock-on effect. You can't give from an empty cup. So what are the most valuable lessons that you've learned about yourself and your goals on this journey?
Yeah, good question. So there's been so much, but I'm going to talk about something that came up with my coach yesterday. And it's this, I guess it's my journey now of kind of putting Sex and the Shy Girl out into the world and choosing to put it out into the world more strongly. Because, it's only, I've lost track, just over a year that it's been, that, I spent a few months building the business. So a year to 15, 18 months it's been out there, and it's like I'm looking to really grow it and have it more seen. And it's like, okay, what does that require of me? And I've had a couple of uncomfortable sort of dates where the men have kind of assumed things about me because of being a sex coach. And I'm like, oh, I have, and it's almost like I lost myself a bit. I'm like, oh, yes, that's true. It was almost like I thought that I should be kind of, how can I put it? I should lose sight of me and my body and my needs and requirements sexually to kind of fit in with them or something. And what I realized is that no, Sex and the Shy Girl and overcoming shyness is actually about being true to you, what's true for you with sex. And as we heal, that's going to be different for different people. But I realized that I have to be actually willing to receive judgment. So as I said, I've just finished my book. It's going to go out into the world. And it's been read by a few of my close girlfriends, but it's also being read by a couple of men now. And I realized it's like, oh, what are they going to think of me? And this guy, one of my male friends, actually said to me, oh, how did you have time to have your career and live your life? Because it's like the book is kind of about me and my journey, and it's like every chapter kind of has a man's name, and most of the chapters, and it's kind of like, and some of it's true, some of it's not. But he's like, gosh, all those different men, how did you have time to live your life? And I was like, oh my God, I have to be willing to just kind of be strong and clear with my message. Because in a way, my message is different from some other. It's like I'm on the mailing list of some other sex coaches, and it's like the first email I get from them is like how to have a better orgasm or how to squirt or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with a better orgasm or squirting, nothing wrong with that at all. But my approach is, I mean, and unsurprisingly, in that I'm trained in healing.
Yours is a more holistic approach, isn't it?
Exactly. Thank you. So sometimes I have too many words. You've just found the one word that sums it up. And it's like, and I think I just have to be really, really clear with myself. Yes, there will be some people who want to get sort of sexy quickly. That's fine. I may not be the coach for them. They may not enjoy my book. They may not enjoy listening to me. But there are a lot of shy, sensitive women who kind of who kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness, you get me. It's like, yes, we get to the sexy bit, but when we've done all the work on ourselves, the sexy sensual bit is far, far greater. And we're really there to enjoy it. And I mean, I know myself when I was younger, it's like I could have great orgasms, but I wasn't really in my body. So it was kind of a strange thing. It's like the orgasms I have now and the experience I have now is far fuller and deeper. And I think it's a certain type of woman who will desire that. But also in terms of men listening and men reading my book and tuning in with my stuff, it's only a certain type of man who'll even be on that wavelength, I think. And I think that the long answer to your question, it's like this is where my edge is now, just being really, really certain in myself and know this is my message. It's not for everybody. Nobody's message is for everybody. As we said, we're all different.
Exactly. I mean, I really like yours, and I didn't really resonate with the other women that you said into the fast, right, directly to sex. You know, I like the holistic approach that you have. I think it's really nice, and the way you explained it was really nice. It's a very gentle approach. And,
yes.
and rightly so, because it's for, you know, shy women that haven't got the confidence maybe in themselves and also with sex. And I think that any way you can help them to be more confident with themselves and understand themselves better is a win-win in my book.
Yes. Yeah, because I think the other thing with this is, yes, it's about sex and sensuality, but if you have the guts to look at what's true for you sexually and sensually, that's such a brave thing. Your whole life will change. It's like your sex life will get better. You'll enjoy moving your body down the street. Everything will seem yummier, but actually your whole life will change because you can't look at what's true for you sexually and not change everything.
Right. Yeah. So what do you think? Okay, so one of the last questions. What are some of the unexpected benefits or rewards you've gained from, well, this whole journey, really, this into the sexual wellness industry?
Yeah, I suppose, the obvious thing to say is that, well, yeah, I have better sex and I feel more alive and sensual. That for sure. But it's not just about that. It's like it's brought a different quality to every moment of my life. And when I say that, actually, there are times when I'm not very present, where I'm not very in my body. So it's not like I've kind of got this 100% of the time, but a lot of the time it's like I feel so alive and engaged because it's actually, in order to have the sexual freedom, you have to be really, really present with your body, present in your life. And when you're present like that, everything starts to work more easily. I mean, I've just said I had this crazy 10-day journey to get here, and there were loads of things that kind of appeared to go wrong. And I was right, in South America. Normally, I'm not out in the dark. Last night, I arrived at my bus arrived at I had to change buses first of all at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I arrived in this place at 4:30 in the morning. Normally, I sort of no in South America. And I was like, oh, that's okay. I was amazed actually. I just asked myself, is that going to be okay? And I got, yes, it's going to be fine. And it was so, 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 so easy.
Right.
So I think that the sexual confidence kind of gives you a confidence in life in general and kind of makes everything easier.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So, questions I ask all my guests, Fiona.
Yes.
If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
So you know what? When after a few years of energy healing, my dad was particularly nasty to me one Christmas in front of my then young nieces. And I went and I had a conversation with him where I basically said, you don't get to speak to me like that. And I did it very kindly but very directly, and our relationship changed. I would love to have done that earlier. I met this amazing woman when on a bus. It's like I've been on a lot of buses in the last 10 years.
Another bus.
In the last 10 weeks, in the last 10 days. I met this 25-year-old traveler, and she basically told me that she'd had a conversation with her dad, similar to mine when I was I think I was 50 actually. She had a conversation with her dad when she was 22, and she's already changed her relationship with him for the better. And I'm like, I'd love to have been able to do that and have that sort of confidence to live life on my own terms at a much younger age.
Right, right. And what do you hope your story will inspire in other women that are listening today? What's your final message you want to convey to them?
But it's funny because having said that, it would have been great to have a better life earlier. I'm also all about wherever you are now. So whether you're listening to this and I don't know, you're like 16 or 21, 31, 41, 51, 61, 71, 81, 91, 100. And I'm going to go up to 121 because in the place I live in Ecuador, there are people who live to 120. So wherever you are on that spectrum, if you're listening to this now, I'd love for you to enjoy your bodies more, to have the confidence to really be in your body, to really start to enjoy your body. That's what I'd wish for you, however old you are listening to this.
That's great. Excellent. What a lovely finish. A million thanks to Fiona for joining me today. Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering. And you can find everything you need to know about us in the details below. So until next time, this is Beth and Fiona signing off. Bye-bye.